Ukraine expects Mirage 2005 from France to stop Russian terror. The date is January 29th, 2026. And if you haven't checked the headlines in the last hour, you really need to stop what you're doing. We are looking at a massive shift in the air war over Europe. Ukraine's Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov has just walked out of a high-stakes meeting with the French Minister of the Armed Forces, Catherine Vautrin.
And the result is huge.
It's huge. France is preparing an additional batch of Mirage 2005 jets and, just as important, critical air defense missiles for immediate delivery.
Right. We're talking NTPT and Crowtail missiles. A big deal.
Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex, joining with Ari in the latest podcast by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today, we're going to cover the Dassault Mirage 2005F.
It's great to be here. And honestly, we aren't just covering a delivery announcement. This isn't just about, shipping containers crossing a border.
Yeah.
We are uncovering what is basically a tactical revolution happening right now in the skies over Kyiv and Kharkiv. We're going to look at how this specific French jet, which, let's be honest, critics dismissed as too old a year ago.
Oh, absolutely. They wrote it off.
Has quietly achieved a reported 98% interception rate against Russian targets.
98%. I saw that number in the source material, and I had to double check it. It just sounds impossible. But we're going to dig into why that number is real and why it's saving thousands of lives.
And we have to.
And we also need to talk about the Greek connection, this intense backroom diplomatic pressure campaign with the U.S. and France trying to unlock 25 more of these jets from Greece.
That is the diplomatic thriller playing out in the shadows, for sure. But the tech is where it gets really good, what we're calling the silent killer.
The missile upgrade.
Oh, yeah. We have to talk about the missile upgrade that has completely changed the rules of engagement and, you could argue, has terrified Russian pilots into staying home.
It's a fascinating story. So let's unpack this. We've all been hearing about F-16s for years, right? The F-16 is the rock star, it gets all the magazine covers.
It's the poster child.
Exactly. But while everyone was watching the American Falcon, the French Mirage seems to have, slipped in the back door and started doing the really heavy lifting.
It really has. So let's establish the timeline here, because this didn't just start with today's announcement.
Right.
So looking at the sources, the first batch of these Mirage 2005Fs arrived in Ukraine almost a year ago. We're talking February 6th, 2025.
And we have to be realistic about the numbers here. It wasn't an armada.
No, not at all. French reports suggest it was initially, maybe 5 or 6 aircraft withdrawn from active French service.
That's barely half a squadron, a handful of jets against the massive Russian aerospace forces.
It's a boutique fleet. But the impact was immediate. They didn't just sit in hangars getting polished. By March 7th, 2025, so barely a month after they arrived, one of these jets scored its first confirmed kill. It intercepted a Russian Kh-101 cruise missile during a massive assault.
And when you say massive assault, paint the picture for us. This isn't 1 or 2 stray rockets we're talking about.
No. This is about the terror campaigns we've seen targeting civilians. We are talking about saturation attacks. The data from that week shows this coordinated wave of 70 cruise missiles and 200 Shahid drones hitting all at once.
A nightmare scenario for air defense.
The absolute nightmare. And right in the middle of that chaos, a Ukrainian pilot who had only been flying this airframe for a few weeks in combat manages to filter out the noise, lock onto a Kh-101, which is a stealthy, dangerous missile, and just splash it.
That's incredible. And that's really where this whole sniper identity starts to form. I saw a video that the Ukrainian Air Force released back in November. It showed a Mirage taxiing, and on the nose, 6 kill markings.
And that visual, that's the proof of concept right there. That's not a parade jet. That is a working asset. And this brings us right back to that 98% statistic you mentioned. That number comes from a pilot interview from late last year. He stated flat out that against drones and cruise missiles, the Mirage 2005 is achieving near-perfect interception rates.
Okay, I have to challenge this a bit just to play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
The F-16 is a great plane. The MiG-29 is capable. So why is the Mirage the goalkeeper? What's giving them this edge?
It's a mix of aerodynamics and avionics, but I think it really comes down to specialization. The F-16 is a multi-role workhorse, right? It's doing seed suppression of enemy air defense. It's fighting near the front lines, dodging SAMs. It's a brawler.
It's in the trenches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Mirage 2005F, though, was designed from the ground up as a high-altitude interceptor. It has that delta wing, that classic triangle shape.
Which lets it climb like a rocket.
Incredibly fast. It gets up high above all the clutter and it looks down. So while the F-16 is brawling, the Mirage is sitting back and picking off the cruise missiles trying to hit the power grid.
Hunting the hunters.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But to understand how it sees them, we have to look under the hood. You mentioned the CASO standard earlier.
Right, the CASO standard. Sounds like a code from a spy novel.
Yeah.
But my notes say this is a specific upgrade package, so these aren't just stock jets off the factory floor.
Oh, far from it. Before these jets were sent to Ukraine, they went to CASO Air Base in France. And this wasn't just a tune-up and a paint job. They upgraded the avionics specifically for the threats in eastern Ukraine.
And the heart of that is the radar.
The RDY-2 pulse Doppler radar.
Okay, break that down for us. Pulse Doppler is one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot. What does it actually mean for a pilot trying to save a power plant?
Okay, so imagine you're on top of a tall building looking down at a busy highway. Everything's moving. Now try to spot one specific gray car moving a little faster than the others.
Hard. Because the ground itself, the road, is reflecting light back at you. There's clutter.
Exactly. Old radars get blinded by that clutter. It's like trying to see through fog. The RDY-2 is exceptional at filtering that out. It uses the Doppler effect to instantly separate a moving target from the static ground. It cuts through the noise.
And it can track multiple targets.
It can track 24 targets at the same time and engage 4 of them simultaneously.
So it sees the swarm coming, prioritizes the biggest threats, and lets the pilot take them out in sequence.
It automates the triage of the sky, but the radar is only half the story. The real game changer, and this is the tech core of our deep dive, is the MICA missile.
The MICA. And this is interesting because when the jets first arrived, they didn't have these, did they?
That's correct. When they first showed up in early 2025, they had Magic 2 missiles. Short range, infrared, think knife fight distance.
Good for drones you can see, but you're putting the pilot in danger.
Way too close. But as of this month, January 2026, we have confirmation they are deploying the MICA.
And MICA isn't just one missile. It comes in 2 flavors.
Right. You've got the MICA EM and the MICA IR. The EM is active radar guided. It's what we call fire and forget.
So the pilot fires and can immediately turn away.
Exactly. The missile has its own little radar in its nose to finish the job. It keeps the pilot safe, lets them engage more targets.
But the MICA IR, that's the one they're calling the silent killer.
Mm-hmm. That is the nasty one. It uses an imaging infrared seeker. So unlike a radar missile, it doesn't emit any signals, it just sees heat.
So let's play this out. If I'm a Russian Su-35 pilot, my dashboard usually lights up if a radar locks onto me. I get a warning.
Right, you get a lock warning, you dump chaff, you take evasive maneuvers. With the MICA IR, you get nothing.
Silence.
Absolute silence, no warning. The Mirage pilot can track you passively, launches the missile, and that missile just follows your engine heat. The first time you know you're being engaged is when it hits.
That's terrifying psychological warfare. It's not just about shooting down planes, it's about making the enemy scared to even fly.
It completely forces them to change their tactics. They can no longer sit comfortably just outside the range of short-range air defense. The MICA has a range of about 80 kilometers. It pushes those Su-35s way back.
Creating a denial zone.
A huge one. And pushing those jets back gives breathing room to Ukrainian ground troops who are constantly getting hit by those glide bombs.
It's amazing. One piece of tech changes the whole geometry of the battlefield. But the Mirage isn't just playing defense, is it? I've seen reports about deep strikes.
No, and this is where that CASO standard really shines. These jets were modified to carry the SCAL-PEG.
The Storm Shadow, we know that one well.
We do, and the Su-24s have been doing great work with it, but there's a huge difference here.
How so?
The Su-24 is a Soviet bomber from the 70s. They had to jerry-rig it to carry a Western missile. It works, but it's clunky.
Like trying to run a new app on an old phone, it lags.
Exactly. The Mirage 2005 has native integration. The missile talks directly to the plane's computer. The pilot has full control, plus the plane itself. And Su-24 is a big truck with a massive radar signature.
And the Mirage is a sports car.
It is. It's smaller, more agile, smaller radar cross-section. It can get closer to the front line before being detected. And if you can get closer, you extend the missile's range. You can hit command bunkers and logistics hubs that were previously out of reach.
It puts more of the occupied territories within reach of liberation.
Yeah.
It's not just the SKLP, right? They also have the AASM hammer bombs.
The hammer. rocket-assisted glide bombs.
Yeah.
They can toss those from 70 kilometers away and hit a specific window in a building without ever flying over enemy air defenses.
Speaking of which, how does a jet from the 90s survive the skies over eastern Ukraine? I mean, it's the most dangerous airspace on Earth.
Yeah.
S-400s jamming.
It's a completely denied environment, absolutely. That's why it has the ICMS MK2 electronic warfare suite. It detects threats and actively jams Russian radars. It's not an invisibility cloak, let's be clear.
Yeah.
But it gives the pilot a fighting chance. It buys them the few seconds they need to launch and get out.
But we have to be real. It's not invincible. We lost one.
We did. July 22nd, 2025. A Mirage was lost to a technical failure. The pilot ejected safely, thank goodness. But losing even one airframe when you have so few, it's painful.
And just keeping them flying sounds like a logistical nightmare. I read about this relocation doctrine.
It's a necessity born of ingenuity. You can't park these jets in the same spot twice. They're moving between 3 different airfields a week to avoid Russian missile strikes. Imagine the logistics of that.
It's a heroic effort by the ground crews. But that brings us to the elephant in the room, the numbers. A handful of jets can't cover a 1,000-kilometer front.
And that brings us to the Greek connection.
Greece. They have about 25 of these, right?
25 Mirage 2005s. And the pressure campaign from the U.S. and France right now is immense. Kathimerini, the Greek newspaper, has been all over this. They are pushing Athens hard to sell these jets to Ukraine.
So what's the hesitation?
It's complicated. First, there's the tension with Turkey. They don't want to lower their own guard. Second, there's a political hesitation about their tech being used directly against Russia.
But the deal on the table is pretty sweet, I imagine.
It is. You offer them the future. Greece wants F-35s from the U.S. and more Rafales from France. So the proposal is a 3-way swap. Greece sells the Mirages to an intermediary, like France, who then passes them to Ukraine. In exchange, Greece gets priority access to the new jets.
The PRL initiative prioritized Ukraine requirements list.
That's the one. And if this deal goes through, we're not talking about a boutique fleet of 6 jets anymore. We're talking about quadrupling the force. A fleet of over 30 Mirages isn't a tactical annoyance for Russia.
It's a strategic problem.
A huge one. It changes the entire balance of power in the air.
And looking at the long game, there's something else happening. These pilots aren't just learning to fly a Mirage. They're learning a whole new way of war.
You're talking about network-centric warfare, the biggest difference between Soviet and NATO doctrine.
Link 16.
Link 16, it's the digital backbone. The Mirage is plugged right into it. It's talking to F-16s, to Patriot batteries, and crucially, to NATO RYCS planes flying over Poland.
So a Mirage pilot doesn't even need to turn his own radar on.
That's the beauty of it. An AWOLS sees a Russian jet 300 kilometers away, beams the data to the Mirage. The Mirage flies silent, sneaks up, launches a MICA. The Russian pilot never even knows who hit him. It's the ultimate ambush.
A level of integration the Russians are struggling to match. But I want to zoom out. You mentioned the Rafale earlier. The Mirage is cool, but the Rafale is the crown jewel. Is that where this is all heading?
The Mirage is the gateway drug, if you will.
Ah.
In November 2025, an agreement was signed for Ukraine to eventually purchase up to 100 Dassault Rafale jets.
100, that's an entire air force.
That is the ambition. And the training happening right now at Nancy O'Shea in France isn't just for the Mirage. It's about building a generation of pilots who think in French. They're learning the avionics, the philosophy. Transitioning from a Mirage to a Rafale is infinitely easier than from a MiG-29.
So we are literally watching the foundation of a new air force being built in real time during a war.
We are. It's a complementary force. You'll have F-16s doing the wild weasel stuff, Mirages playing goalkeeper and sniper, and eventually the Rafales providing total air dominance. It's a vision for a secure Europe.
It's a fascinating evolution. So let's bring it back to the listener. Why does a French jet in Ukraine matter to someone listening in London or New York?
Because it proves that this strategy of providing high-tech, specialized equipment saves lives. That 98% interception rate isn't a video game score. It means power plants are running in winter. It means hospitals have electricity. It means the terror campaign is failing.
It's tangible. It's the difference between a city having heat or freezing. It is the shield against tyranny.
And strategically, it tells Moscow that the West isn't running out of options. We are digging deeper, and we are finding tools that are incredibly effective. We're not just dumping old junk. We are providing capabilities that overmatch what Russia can field.
And with the news today, January 29th, that France is doubling down, sending
Yeah.
more jets and more missiles. That message is getting louder.
It certainly is.
Okay, let's wrap this up. We've covered the sniper role, the silent MICA missiles, the brilliance of the Kazo upgrades, and the massive potential of the Greek fleet.
It's a qualitative leap. Even with small numbers, the capability is elite.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. If this Greek deal actually happens, and the pressure is mounting daily, and the Ukrainian fleet grows to 30 or 40 Mirages, and you combine that with the incoming Rafales, we aren't just watching a country defend itself anymore.
No.
We are witnessing the complete reconstruction of the Ukrainian Air Force into a NATO standard power that could dominate the Eastern European skies for decades.
And you have to ask yourself, what does that do to the calculation in Moscow? If they can't achieve air superiority now against this patchwork fleet, how do they plan to compete against a fully modernized Air Force that can see them before they even take off?
That is the question that probably keeps the Kremlin up at night.
And frankly, it should.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.